And so with that, I'm actually happy to now recognize the distinguished congressperson from Rhode Island, Congressman David Cicilline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Prosecutor General Kostin. It's good to see you again, and thank you for your testimony, and most importantly, for the important work that you are doing and your colleagues to ensure that both the Ukrainian government and the international community seek and obtain accountability for the horrific war crimes that Russia has carried out in Ukraine. And we have all watched, as well as the entire international community has witnessed, Russia launch airstrikes and missile attacks on apartment buildings, a maternity ward, schools, train stations, and other civilian targets. In Bucha and Irpin, journalists and forensic doctors have meticulously documented the horrors carried out by Russian forces, including, as you said, the rape, torture, and execution of civilians. And throughout Ukraine, we have seen Russian forces forcibly deport Ukrainians, including thousands of young children, to Russian-controlled areas. These heinous acts are war crimes, plain and simple, and both the United States and the entire international community have a critical role to play in supporting the Ukrainian government and the international institutions as they work to pursue justice and accountability for all the victims of these horrific atrocities. And so my first question, Mr. Kostin, is, according to UNESCO, more than 240 Ukrainian heritage sites are estimated to have been damaged since the Russian invasion last year, including the Kharkiv State Academic Opera Theater and Mariupol's Museum of Local Lore. And Putin has terrifyingly made culture both a justification and an object of war with Ukraine, with deliberate aims to destroy what it means to be Ukrainian. So my first question is, how can the international community, and particularly the United States, support your efforts with respect to this particular pernicious effort by the Russian government and the Russian forces?
Thank you for your question. We, of course, treat these actions as an element of intentional and potentially genocidal policy of Russian Federation. Our team, we have a special team of war crimes prosecutors who are now concentrated on our structural case of the crime of genocide. And we are collecting evidences together with our state institutions in order to not only to fix the number of cultural heritage destroyed by Russian forces, but also to establish the links between this destroying and some other actions. Like, for instance, we are now establishing, I'm talking about different story, establishing the links between cyber and kinetic attacks on objects of critical civil infrastructure, trying to establish the case of cyber crime as a war crime. So, coming back to the heritage, of course, we will need more expert support because the issue of cultural prosecution and punishment for the cultural genocide is not very well established on a world level. So I will be grateful for expert support in this field in order to check the evidences and to prepare a strong case. And I fully agree with you that this is an act of genocide.
Thank you. And, we passed in the last Congress a piece of legislation called Justice for Victims of War Crimes that Senator Grassley and Senator Durbin and Representative Spartz and I worked on, which would allow us to prosecute people for war crimes if they are in the United States for war crimes they've committed anywhere in the world, which I think will give us an additional tool. But as Mr. Keating was saying, it's so important for the Russian military to see evidence that they will be held accountable if they continue to engage in this really horrific conduct. What can we do right now as members of the United States Congress to support your work and make certain that you are successful as the chief prosecutor in holding both Vladimir Putin and all of the Russian military accountable for their conduct? What can we be doing to be helpful?
I will not repeat the issue of supporting of special tribunal. I have already pointed out this. I would say that the extension or expanding of the cooperation with the International Criminal Court in cases related to the war crimes committed in Ukraine would be also helpful, because we are, as I mentioned, in a very good cooperation with the ICC, and they could need some piece of evidence which could be collected here. And third, of course, we are asking for sharing with us more intelligence information. There are cases of war crimes known globally, worldwide, where we need some information which we can't receive by any other sources. So if we will have more support on sharing of intelligence information for the purpose of making Russia accountable, this, I believe, will be very helpful for the matter of justice.
Thank you so much. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, thank you, Congressman Cicilline.